Hello, everyone. I have not forgotten about you. I was thinking really, really, really hard about not going live today, even though I didn't tell anyone. But I've been thinking that, let's see if I can get myself in my box here. It's feeling summery outside, so I have my arms out today. I was thinking that maybe some of the issue that we're having with getting our podcast going could be knowing how to make money with it. Me and my husband was out last night and we were talking with other people and someone said, "How do you make money with podcasting?" And I know everyone wants to know, how do you make money with podcasting? And I could say with advertising, but then with advertising, you would have to have relationships with people who need stuff advertised. So advertising is an easy answer, but how are you going to make the big bucks? And people are looking for ways to make money, to have other streams of income, and to not have to work so hard. But what I'm finding is that people are working extremely hard, like two and three jobs hard, very busy schedules hard, no room for a personal life. Maybe a personal life isn't that important to you, but my approach to life and the reason quit my job to live my passion 12 years ago was because at the time I had children, and being a single mom, you don't have a lot of time. You have the same 24 hours in a day as everyone else. But I had three children, three young men, three people who had different personalities, different wants and needs at different times. And it's up to me. I feel like my head is tilted. I think I talk with my head sideways. I think I needed to be more available. I think I needed to be more available to my children because they said, "Hey, we want you to be more available to us." So having a schedule where I had enough money, um, enough of me, enough good energy, so I'm not just at home with my kids feeling pissed off that I didn't go make money. Um, Learning how to have balance in my life. Yes, I would love to have a lot of money, but the truth is, in podcasting, to make a lot of money means you have to do a lot of work. Podcasting is like being a singer. You're only making money when you're performing. So, podcasting is a springboard to other things. As this person was asking me, how do you make money with podcasting? I really had to let them know it wasn't about making money with podcasting, but because of podcasting, I have been able to be in places that either I would have to pay for it if I wasn't in podcasting, or I wouldn't be allowed if I wasn't in some form of media. Now, you may not have anything in your life right now that would require you to have access without having media license or experience. Um, but at the time, I did when it was 4 years, 3 years into doing This Needs to Be Said, and President Obama and First Lady Obama were not yet in position, or were they? Well, yeah, because 2008. So yeah, they were going up for re-election. So it was First Lady Obama and President Obama. And so they were making a lot of trips into North Carolina and a lot of trips right into Charlotte, North Carolina, and or near, because President Obama was in Mount Holly, and I got to go see him, and I had photographers come with me, and they didn't even want me to pay them. They just wanted to be there to be able to get their own authentic footage. So in that space, no one made money, but we gained access. Maybe we built our resume. Maybe the videographer that was there in the media pool was able to make some other networking connections, which he could have done even if he was paid. But his words to me was, if you can get me in the room with President Obama, I'll video for you for free. The other videographer that I took, he said, I just need a lens for my camera wherever you want me to be. Give me a lens for my camera and I'm there. So I had two photographers and I was able to negotiate. No one made money, but we gained access. So when people ask me, how do you make money with podcasting? I'm kind of like, wow, like if you thought you only made money with your base job that you do at someone's company, if you thought that um, anything like Starbucks, we know Starbucks for coffee, and people seem to line up, and it seems like there must be some addictive thing inside of Starbucks coffee because everyone seems to have their little cup of whatever they just ordered up from the barista. But making coffee isn't what makes Starbucks money. um and it's your secret sauce. I didn't I was struggling between having this conversation because I don't want it to seem mysterious. I don't want it to seem out of your reach. What podcasting can do for you is virtually shake the hand of anyone you want to meet in person. I've been able to, and I'm only mentioning these names because they may be widely familiar to everyone. I've interviewed and shared my platform over 1,300 times. I can't say there's 1,300 guests because some of my commentators will repeat commentators for 2 to 5 years. Some people stayed as little as 12 months. But when it was time to do a celebrity interview, I got those opportunities. Why? Because I have a podcast and someone needed them to get an interview. And when I started podcasting, no one wanted their person on a podcast to be interviewed. So I leveraged my ability to talk. Gosh, what's the word? I may be saying it wrong, but I liked it at the time. But it means you can talk off the top of your head, extemporaneously. I'll find the word, but anyway, it means that you can talk off the top of your head. You don't need a script. You can bounce off of other people. And because I've had a lot of experience running my mouth, I used to get the can't refrain from unnecessary talking and needs improvement in school when they did grade us on talking too much in school. So I felt like I had the experience. So it does take experience in a lot of areas. It takes experience with relationships, and mainly relationships. You make money with the relationships you build. You don't make money with podcasting. You don't make money with the TV show. And I used to wonder, because I research people, I used to wonder, how did Oprah make all this money? Because to me, if she's on at 4 o'clock every day for 25 years, and we read the Forbes report and they say that she's a billionaire, that she must be making money from somewhere. Oh, it's the sponsors and the advertisers. But why would she be a billionaire from sponsors and advertising? Well, one, that's not all she has, but the reason people want to sponsor and advertise during her hour-long show is because she's Oprah. But when did she become that Oprah? Because she's always been Oprah. Even before they had the Oprah Winfrey show, she was a newscaster. And in fact, she wasn't a successful newscaster, but she was a newscaster, a journalist nonetheless. And she was unsuccessful because she was too emotional. She's a perfect fit for a talk show because you want to be emotional and have feelings during an interview in a talk show. But during an interview with the news, they want you to not do that. So it wasn't bad because she's just a horrible speaker. Is because her style of interview wasn't made for the everyday people she's going to come in touch with only for a few minutes and never really know what the rest of their story is unless somebody picks it up and finds the rest of the story interesting. And you notice that in news, there's a very small amount of time for people to be able to, say their message, and the journalist says, hey, this family's house is on fire. If you can help, or if you know anybody, give facts, facts, facts. That's what they're giving. They're not there to do a follow-up unless they are given a report to. So when Oprah moved to the Oprah Winfrey show, she was able to do a deeper dive into the kind of journalism that she wasn't good at. Some of you may not want to start your podcast because you think you won't be good at it. Okay, let's agree. You're not good at podcasting yet. You only get good at anything when you do it over and over and over. And you can do something over and over and do it wrong, but you'll be better at it and you'll even want to improve on that. Even if you're not the best, you'll be better than you were when you started. I was alluding to some of the celebrities. Oprah wasn't one of them. Regina King, Monique, the comedian, the controversial comedian. When I interviewed her, I wanted to know about her and her husband having an open relationship. That was like my big reason to get in there. And I was actually working with a magazine that was how I learned to really leverage what I'm doing in podcasting, because magazines were acceptable, FM AM radio was acceptable, but podcasts, they were like, I don't really know who'd listen to that. That was the response at the time. So I said my podcast was a radio show. You learn the words. I know that you probably have read up on podcasting or anything that you wanted to start doing, and they talk about jargon and whatever the trendy words are for that industry. And at first, it was confusing. I'm like, oh God, I just want to get in and do good, and I want people to be on my show, and I want lots of people to pay for advertising, and I want people to sponsor. And I got some drips of those things, that outside understanding. And I keep having people say, how do you make money? How do you make money? And they're really, I don't know if they're genuinely worried about me or they're saying, I want to do what you're doing, but if I can't see how to make money with it, I won't take that chance. So I want to encourage each one of you to get started. Get started with your podcast. Your first show or interview won't necessarily be heard by a million. It won't. It just won't. It's logic. Unless you know a million people right now that you could send a message to and that they have been not responsible, highly responsive to things that you've sent out before your podcast, you're not going to have a lot of people tune in. And it's not because, oh, well, I'll advertise and I'll market and I'll pay for space and I will get, ads on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. I'll be everywhere. I'll do big blasts and everybody will tune in. No, they won't. Because human psychology won't allow us to. We like new things. We'll look at new things, but we don't give it that much attention. And if I do listen to your show now, I may not listen to it again for another couple of weeks. If I do listen to it for a month, something will happen next month and I won't be able to commit to it. Oprah did her show over 25 years and her audience on TV evolved over those 25 years. The day-to-day stuff that she dealt with, no, we won't know that because we're all human and we all have our own stuff we deal with. We can go by what's been publicized that, she struggled with her weight, fluctuating, or will she get married to Stedman? But who cares? She has a consistent partner. And I still don't, it's none of my business if she has an inconsistent partner. And we all know her best friend is Gail, right? But as far as how do you make money with your business, it doesn't matter about who you hang with and who you're married to and other stuff we don't know about you. What matters is that you have a purpose for your podcast. For me, mine was a way out of working for someone else. And if that meant sometimes, many times, not having a consistent income to cover expenses I've created in my home, so be it. Because I have been evicted, been in foreclosure, filed bankruptcy, and I've been on jobs. So if lack of money is going to be the issue, it's going to be the issue. I was a single mom. I'm highly educated. However, the sacrifice for my education and my children's time and what they felt like they needed and what I felt like I wanted to give them and that whole mix of my whole life wasn't worth the money it was going to cost to keep me away from them because I experienced that. I'd leave early and everything's hustle and bustle and you get back home and then you look up and where did the time go? My youngest son got to benefit me being home more. And I think that paid me the dividend that I really wanted. Because you can find money. You can find someone to pay your bills. You can find some way to pay your bills. But are you doing what you enjoy doing? And that's what I needed to ask myself. So yeah, you might say, yeah, Catherine, yeah, you're doing whatever you're doing what you want to do, but I want to make money with this thing. I'm saying to you that's not the approach to podcasting that you want to use. It's the steering wheel on the car, but you need the rest of the car. You can do this and you can make the sounds with your mouth, but you're not going anywhere. Do you want to go somewhere? Yes, we all want to go somewhere. I was able to see First Lady Obama, but then here was another thing: leverage. Leverage is like money in the bank. So I happen to have a podcast, and I happen to be volunteering on a local, and I say volunteering because I wasn't getting paid, and that's what volunteering is. However, I also was PTA president. So I wasn't sure, didn't know in advance that these three things could work together. Or if I couldn't get in because of podcasting, I can get in because I was with an actual radio station or because I was a PTA president. And here's how that happened. One visit to North Carolina or to Charlotte that First Lady Obama did was the was it the Let's Move campaign she was doing. So a lady in our after school program at Sterling Elementary did Let's Move in after school. So her son was a DJ, is still a DJ, and they would pop up at different after school programs with Charlotte Mecklenburg schools, and they would for free have a impromptu party with the kids to get them moving, to get them fit, to get them in the mindset of not being lazy and being healthy and drinking water. And this person even got, and this is actually my cousin, she was able to get a sponsor. So there was a water sponsor, a DJ pop up, and then they got an official day in Charlotte for Let's Move in After School Day. So me being PTA president at this particular school, First Lady Obama wanted some of our students, to be with her during CIAA to do a live exercise with the First Lady of the United States. Our principal said no, but we still got the offer though, because I was PTA president, I got to know about that stuff. And I don't know, maybe I would have gotten to like meet her, but I didn't get to meet her because our school didn't get to be the Let's Move and after school, people she picked up, or the Let's Move kids she picked up. She picked a couple of other schools, but because I was with an FM station who had passes to CIAA, I was able to, because of my volunteerism and my boldness, I grabbed one of those badges and I ended up in the press pool. But I got in there, had three ways. I could not have bought myself into either one of those opportunities. So, do I want to make money with podcasting or do I want to get into places? I got to see Bill Cosby do a sit down. And yes, he's not very popular now, but a lot of us grew up on Bill Cosby. Um, my parents listened to his comedy records. We just can't erase a lot of what he's brought into this world. A lot of us have been positively impacted by Dr. Cosby. So I got to go and see him in person because of a media pass. Aisha Tyler, a comedian, I got to interview her and I got to go see her because of a media pass. I remember taking a light rail downtown to go into these events so I can go dress snazzy and go out to a comedy show that would have cost me $40 or more at the time, maybe $80 for one ticket. And usually they will give you two passes so you could take someone with you. Um, Gosh, without me thinking of everything over the solid 7 years that I worked in there, I was able to have speaking engagements. People invited me to things. In fact, I was braver with asking, hey, can I come speak at your event? Can I be a part of what you're doing? So, podcasting itself does not make you money. Podcasting itself is a gateway to other things. So, if you want to be a speaker and you like dressing up pretty and you're good at delivering and being charismatic, use your podcast to get you more speaking gigs. Use it as a tool because that's what it is. If you just sit back and only do the podcast, you're only going to make a limited amount of money because you only have a certain amount of time. There was one platform, and I'll check and see if it's still out there, that was an online 24-hour. I think it was let's see if it's called My Radio. I'll look it up. I'm making myself a note now, but that was the only 24-hour opportunity I saw for podcasters. On Blog Talk Radio, at most you'll get 3 hours per day. So if you only have 3 hours per day, you're limited. But 3 hours per day times 30 days could give you more time, but still it's not giving you that 24-hour thing that bigger companies would love to have. So instead of advertising with me or sponsoring my show, they would go to the bigger conglomerate like Blog Talk. And if you're on Anchor, I just joined Anchor. Some of you have joined Anchor as well. Were on Anchor before I got on and even after. But Anchor is just the base. This is the stage. This is the stage. You can do so many things. Get speaking engagements, get more speaking engagements, have guests on your show. I do not recommend charging a guest to be on your show. And here's a reason, a couple of reasons why. This guest needs to go on tour. This guest may have a marketing budget. This guest may not have a marketing budget. But what else can you offer this person other than paying to speak with you on an interview? Okay. They could advertise with you ongoing after that interview. That could be an option. They can come back and be a continuous voice on the show, a guest commentator. They may come and be one of your permanent commentators. Maybe they'll join your panel discussion. They'll bring you more listeners. Years ago, I had this question: how do you make money with podcasting? And one of my peers in podcasting, Jay Ryle, out in Texas, says, you need people. I started this conversation out with you need relationships. If you don't have relationships, you don't have a way to make money. You have a podcast, you have one or two friends. You ask those one or two friends to help you invite people to your show. Those two friends invite one more person. Now you have four friends. And gradually it goes and goes and goes. Michelle has done something called leveraging. Her and Veronica work together to get her more people on her show to share their superpower. Then Michelle says, well, I think I want authors on my show. Well, you have to reach out to people again. You know, a couple of people who have written a book. And when people write a book or, excuse me, make a song, they are super happy. Please, please interview me, you know? And yeah, they want to be on certain shows. They want to be on Oprah and Ellen and Steve Harvey and all the shows that will get them a million listeners right now or viewers or people interested in their product or service, or they'll get temporary popularity. And maybe it's worth it. Maybe that's what they want to do. And I think that's what we have to ask ourselves. If your big question is, how will I make money doing podcasting? Will it be a waste of my time? My question to your question is, why do you want to podcast? Do you want to be popular? Do you want to make lots of money? What's your reason for wanting to podcast? Wanting to educate people? Because if you want to educate people, you're not thinking about making money, and you should be starting your podcast like yesterday. Start talking, start sharing. Even if no one's listening, and I know y'all hear me, but I'm telling you from experience, when you show up every single day, every single scheduled day that you put out there, if you're going to do once a week, show up once a week. People get tired and frustrated, and I don't want to do this anymore because nothing's happening. Is nothing happening? Just because you can't see the wind blow, it's blowing. You can't see the grass grow, but you see one day it looked good and the next day it needs to be tended to. Our hair, you go get a nice hairstyle, get it cut, and then you have split ends. Well, where did that come from? I didn't plan for split ends. I want my hairstyle to last forever. A bath doesn't last forever. Nothing lasts forever without effort. Nothing happens all of a sudden. It just seems like it does because all of a sudden we notice it. Show up, show up, show up, show up. Think of new stuff to do. Think of things. Right now, I'm thinking of Going back to the television studio because they've added podcasting, and I've been asking for 12 years, add podcasting. Well, not literally 12 years, probably about 7 years. I've been doing podcasting for, yeah, so it's probably about 7 or 8 years because I started doing a television show, 4 or 5 years after podcasting. And then being on TV, that's another thing. Just because you're on TV, you're living in at least two different perspectives right now. Someone sees you on TV, you're doing big stuff. But you know that you probably took $50 and put some snacks in the green room for your crew so that they would show up and run your cameras and direct your show. And you had to get volunteers. Like, podcasting isn't for lazy people. It's not for people who don't know how to get things done. It's not for people who are going to give up and not want to do it because it's not interesting anymore. You're waiting for someone to say, "Oh, you sound so good. I love your voice. That topic you talked about is so deep and it's going to go viral instantly, and I'm going to make it do so." That's not happening. That's not happening. D.L. Hughley is a comedian. Albie Shore is a singer, but they do radio shows. Were they not making enough money as comedians or as a singer? Everything we do leads to something else. That one thing is not what is making you money. It leads you into making you money. You have to start somewhere. The thing about entrepreneurship is, and it's not 100% across the board. The way I'm doing entrepreneurship, by me coming up with what I'm doing, me coming up with the concept and the system and the way that things will be carried out. And I'm the one that fixes the problem, or I'm the one that asks for help to get the problem fixed. I don't have a boss to say, "Hey, this isn't working, come fix it." So the way I'm doing entrepreneurship is based on what I can do on my own. Because what happens when you go look for a loan? They want to know, well, how much are you risking before we put anything up? They're not just looking at your credit score. They're looking at what have you done before you ask for help. Any space that you're truly going to learn in, you're going to be allowed to see what you can do on your natural ability, not on what you know, not on your skill, not on what you've been trained to do, but just naturally, what do you think you should do in this space? Oh, I think I should have a guest. I think I should say, brought to you today. This show is being brought to you in part today by Love Yourself Coffee. Whatever it is. For people who want to get in the habit of having commercial breaks, I have a site, public service announcements, that you can go to and add advertisement. You, by doing that, you show someone who would advertise with you what it would look like if they advertised with you. When I was trying to do my television show some years ago, it's very hard to sell someone on a concept that you can't give them a visual of, even if Love Yourself Coffee doesn't exist, and it doesn't. It's just my, where's my light? It's just my mug that I like so much that I use. Anyway, doesn't exist, but I'll practice right after this break. After these messages, we'll be right back. So you've seen commercial breaks. You've seen people do it. Talent is talent. Can you break into a conversation without seeming rude? "Hey, I got to cut you off because we got to go pay these bills." How do you get a guest to stop talking? You're worrying about so many things. And Jay told me, "Catherine, get the people." If you've seen the movie Field of Dreams, or even heard of the movie Field of Dreams, there's a line. There's a line in that movie that is said, and it's true. If you build it, they will come. Who's coming to the party and they don't know what's happening? They don't know who's going to be at the party. They don't know what's going to happen at the party. They don't know if you're a good party host. They don't know if they're going to get a gift. Do they owe you a gift? How does this work? What do you want the experience to be like? You don't know, because you don't even know if you're good at podcasting yet, because you haven't gotten started. Get started. Opening up an account and waiting for friends to give you praise. And then you're looking for the right kind of praise. Your first podcast, your second podcast, your 50th podcast. And someone says, "Ooh, I think you should keep doing that." Is that what's going to keep you going? This eventually will get past you needing someone to comment for you. You now have a microphone that when you see a Breonna Taylor, George Floyd um, situation, you open up your microphone if you feel led. Well, I'm not doing a show about civil rights, Catherine. No, not initially. I wasn't doing a show about pop culture when I started my show, but Michael Jackson died, and I grew up with Michael Jackson, and that became personal to me. Pop culture to someone, but personal to me. I remember deciding if I loved Michael Jackson or if Prince was better, and I have a relationship with these people. Even if people don't tell you, they're watching, they're listening, they're checking it out. The habits of people who who listen to podcasts, they binge watch just like we binge watch Netflix or Hulu or Tubi or whatever on demand site you use. Yeah, and the movies, the first weekend, the opening weekend is so important, but not with your podcast. I want you all to get started. I want you to get started. I don't want you to be good. Not yet, because if you're perfect now, how in the world will you top being perfect the next time you do your show? Let's just get started. Talk about something, anything. I don't care if you do it for 5 or 10 minutes. Just get started. Make it a habit. Anytime you've started something new, it took a little graduating into it. Maybe you do 5 minutes. I'm going to do 5 minute moments. Do them. One of my clients, Lisa 6 and 3, her goal is to do a devotional every morning at 6 a.m. for 3 minutes. Lisa, at first, was going way over 3 minutes. We stuck with the name Lisa 6 and 3, and she still goes over 3 minutes, but not much. The point was to keep it short, keep it brief, make it something that people can pop into. This is for people with busy lives, but they want to do their Bible devotional. I think it's a great idea. And it's about to be a year old, and she's excited about what's next for it. People who have written their first book, your first book may be the best thing you've ever written, but how do you top that? You know, you want to be able to leave room for growth, for improvement, for adventure. And I get people who are perfectionists. I get people who want it to be right. But think about how much time you're not developing relationships by waiting to be perfect first. Do you hear people complain about, well, I would approach this person, but they don't seem approachable. They have all their things together, but I don't. I'll wait till I get it together and then I will connect with them. Don't let that be you. Be approachable, be open, be willing to share with people whatever it is. And they don't know you until they hear you over and over and over. With me working from home and my husband works outside of the home, I get to pretend that I'm listening to different radio shows outside of the home. My neighbors, we live in an apartment, so I have neighbors all around me. They have their pets, they have their children, they have each other, cars, music, just different things. So there's one family downstairs from me. When they moved in, I thought, man, they're angry. But then they probably think me and my husband are angry too because we're loud people. Sometimes we are angry, sometimes we're not angry, but we're still loud people. But if you really listen to people, you'll hear, oh, that's how they sound. But their words are, will you go to the store for me? Like the lady downstairs, I promise, sounds like DMX. And so everything is she's angry. Are you gonna go to the store for me? But she's just asking, will you go to the store for me? And I was thinking, man, somebody's getting it every day, until I just close my eyes and I listen to the words. But because of relationship, this lady doesn't know I do that. I don't know if she listens to me. I don't know. But after I'm listening, I know that, oh, okay, that's how they sound. And I now am at peace because I don't need to be hyper vigilant because no one's jumping on no one, no one's beating up the old lady downstairs. She's just asking, will they go to the store for her? And she's not even upset. Um, but maybe you don't feel like taking time to get to know people. And if you don't feel like taking time to know people, it's going to make podcasting not much fun. Um, Spend time getting to know people. How do you make money in podcasting? Is through relationships with people. Those relationships with people will have you at dinners, luncheons that maybe the plate cost $100, $200, and you don't have to pay because they just want you to be there. And could you possibly interview a couple of people for your blog or for your podcast? And doing a podcast, you can do a blog, you can have a newsletter, you can have your social media. You can be someone that influences other people to tune into a show, to use a product, to try a service. Your podcast is a house. Someone is going to come visit your house and you want them to have a great experience. Someone says, "Oh, okay, well, I would like for you to come." I've been to movie screenings, I've been to lunches, I've been to youth events, I've been to presidential affairs, I've been to debates, I've been to museum revealings. I've gotten to go to pre-screen things, things that the regular population hasn't seen yet, because I got a special pass to come early. And the hope is that as many, podcasters or media bloggers, whoever can come, that'll build buzz and they'll talk. So I have connections with people at the local museums, and I like going to do these things. So it worked out for me. I get to go to parties that people have to pay to go to. I get to be behind the scenes on things. And all of this becomes relationship building for me. Because if one person sees me there doing something media like, when they have an event, they want to know, can I come? I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I've traveled to Greensboro, I've traveled to Durham, Raleigh, I've traveled to um, Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. So I've learned that there are places outside of Charlotte, because in Charlotte you have to pay to use the library for community stuff, but you can use the community centers here for free or very, very cheap, but completely free. Atlanta, Georgia libraries, and in Greensboro. I can schedule something and go up there and do an event in the library, well, after COVID, and it's totally free. I have it open to the public. I'm prepared to teach a class for anyone who will come and participate, and it's free. If you know how much it costs to rent a space out to do something, then you know that free is a big deal in this space. No cost to me, but in exchange, I offer it to their public. I allow whoever comes to their facility to participate. Sometimes nobody from their facility, just coming in will participate, but they could, and I'm open to it. I remember meeting Nikki Giovanni. I feel like I've told y'all this before. And we were honoring, the whole event was to honor Toni Morrison. And this was when Maya Angelou was alive. She was there. So being in the room with these great women was something that I couldn't have paid to be a part of because I wasn't a youth. I didn't know these people. I was in Virginia, had no reason to have a part in it. But someone said, "Hey, you want to help me with a book project for some young people?" And I said, "Sure." I wanted to go so I could be in the room with these great women. But after that event, at least for 2 years, this guy allowed me to use his facility anytime there was an opening and he didn't have something else planned, which was pretty often based on what I needed to do. So I've used it to host a coupon class. I've used it to host um, a business workshop, two business workshops, a vision party, and these weren't for me. I just leveraged his space for people who may need space. And I could have charged for that, or I could not have charged for that. But then by me letting someone use his space, they said, well, if you ever need a meeting space, because I know this is more social, if you need a meeting space, come over to my office. Give me access to their office. So you begin to exchange these things that would normally cost you money. So when does the money come in? You get a speaking engagement. Someone pays you up front. You write a book. I knew a guy who started his podcast just because he wrote a book. And he did a phenomenal job with that book because he really use that platform for that. But then he said, well, while I'm out here with my book, there are other people. Let me bring them in. And he became someone that people would go to. Become a resource. People see that you are open and generous with your platform. They're going to tell other people. You're going to get popular. You're going to have more people come your way. I have used Fiverr. Now, on Fiverr, you will charge for interviews, and that's a contradiction in a sense to what I said earlier. But people on Fiverr are willing to pay to be interviewed. Now, I've interviewed Bill Cosby's nephew, Braxton Cosby, um, and I found him through Fiverr. Now, some people will pay to be interviewed, and that's fine. But I'm saying don't go out and promote people for people to pay to be on your platform. If you find someone on a site like Fiverr, Fiverr is Fiverr.com, two R's, Fiverr.com. On Fiverr, I was able to interview Braxton Cosby, and that was a great experience. I also was able to find a public relations company, and they said, we have bankruptcy attorneys. I see that you do a podcast. Can we have your attorneys on your show? Well, at one point, I had so many attorneys. I had more bankruptcy attorney content from different bankruptcy attorneys than I had other content. And I began to get concerned. Do I need to set up a different podcast for this? And I thought about it, thought about it, never did it. But they came back to me and they said, well, thank you for having them on your show. Thank you for keeping them in consistent rotation. I know we paid you for the interview when we got started. And what happened was, because let me back up. They found me on Fiverr. I did their interviews. And then I said, do you mind if they come on my show on a regular basis? And then I realized they had more people. So they found me through a couple of paid interviews, maybe one or two. And then I extended, hey, attorneys, that'll bring me some attention. These are topics that people don't like talking about. Someone may be facing bankruptcy now and need to know it's not a bad word. And I've learned so much from them. But in that, I said, well, I should do a different platform. And I went to the PR company and said, while I love doing the interviews for you all, um, I'm concerned that I'm doing too many of these. But from somewhere between Fiverr, because I've been doing this 5 or 6 years, I got to think about it. We went from them being regular on the show, and they said, "Listen, I love that you have them regularly on your show, but what would you charge us if you just interviewed them without the rest of your show?" At first, I was like, "Without the rest of my show, what would that be like?" That means I have to learn to edit, and I have to adjust something. I have to do something different. But I said, okay, I charge $100. And they said, well, are you gonna transcribe it too? And I was like, well, no. And they said, well, what about $40, which is a big difference between 140, but $40 was more than $5, and they're gonna do this every single time I interview their client. So 4 or 5, probably even 6 years later, I'm interviewing or hosting discussions with these attorneys for $40. That came from podcasting. Now, I have tried to say, hey, for $40, I'll interview you and you can use it on your blog, as these attorneys are doing with their public relations office. Haven't found anyone that really wants that opportunity. And I may be talking to the wrong people. Maybe I need to talk to another public relations person. Um, don't know how that worked. I couldn't have planned for the bankruptcy attorneys to want to be on This Needs to Be Said's platform. But then they pay me $40. I spend anywhere between 10 to 15 minutes per interview, and I could have anywhere between 2 to 10 interviews per month. I have to schedule them every month. Attorneys are busy, they forget things, and now I'm doing admin work. Uh-oh. Admin work could come from doing your podcast. I manage someone's email address, I'm not email address, their email newsletter every month now and have been doing that for over a year. I have managed people's social media for them. I have created content for other people. Someone was doing a magazine once, not the magazine that got me started with my podcast. Um, but since I've been doing podcasting, I've been able to be featured in other people's magazines as a regular contributor. So the things that I would spend money on for marketing, I didn't have to because of relationships. So I'm going to wrap up here. I've talked for 45 minutes. I've enjoyed just kind of unpacking what I was hesitant to unpack. The question was and is, how do I make money with podcasting? The answer is through relationships. Until next Sunday, we are going to have a super week. Please ask your questions. You don't need to be good to get started. You just have to get started. And then eventually you'll be good. You'll be your level of good. And a year from now, you'll upgrade to another level of good. You don't want to start out being perfect because you have to keep building on that. Start out starting and go from there. Your journey with podcasting is going to take you somewhere else. There's a couple in our group, Louis and Rosita, that are in a what I think is a unique position to really leverage what they're doing. They're connected to a network of people that can come on their show, interview after interview after interview, and talk about saving money, finding the best deal, being a better shopper. If they have a million people that they're connected to, a million people that know who they are, and they may not necessarily know those people directly, get that podcast going, and you're going to personally know all those people. They're going to recognize you, and the speaking opportunities that you have received will increase. Because what you're doing the podcast for is for visibility. Have a super rest of your Sunday. Build relationships through your podcast, and the money will come. Have a super Sunday.